Okay, so today's pre-lecture video is going to follow in the vein of the previous pre-lecture video where we're looking at ray diagrams. But today we're going to do them for lenses. So the idea here is really to give us the ability to be able to do rough diagrams of what kind of image an object is going to create with a given type of lens. And so first we'll start with a converging lens, which is going to have two focal points on either side because the lenses are reversible. And we're going to create, here's our object, and we're just going to look at, this is going to be F1, this is going to be F2. We're going to look at three different rays, and we're going to see how drawing them will allow us to see where our image is going to be produced. So for the first one, we're going to make it purple, is if a light ray comes in parallel to the central axis, when it refracts in the lens, it's going to go through the focal point on the other side. And just as we did for mirrors, sort of the opposite happens. We're going to do 3 because I like the symmetry of it. If the light ray passes through the focal point on the way to the lens, when it actually passes through, it will actually emerge and travel parallel to the axis. And then finally for number 2, make that one blue, would be a light ray that kind of just goes through the center of the lens and really just kind of goes on and continues on straight. And I almost made it intersect, but not quite. And so this is where our image is going to be, roughly. Our image. And for me, my image looks a little enlarged. We'll see if that's accurate, but it's definitely inverted, and it's definitely real because it's where we expected. So then we'll have the real diagram, and here you see going in parallel goes through the focal point, or reverse, if we go through the focal point first, will emerge parallel, and finally the one that goes down through the middle does not get deflected at all. And I guess we see a real inverted image, which this one I think maybe looks a little bit enlarged, but it's really hard to tell. At least it's hard for me to tell. Okay, so let's do a diagram for a diverging lens. Now, the issue with the diverging lens is very similar to that of the mirror, because we sort of have to trace back and see like where the rays seem to have come from. So here is going to be my object. And so our first ray, if we allow it to come in parallel, it's actually going to seem like it came from this first focal point. And that's this one. My second one, I'll draw the one through the center, which is not really going to change much. And you definitely can see these are diverging. And so let's do the third one. And that's going to be sort of the opposite of the first one. If this one sort of looks like it's going to go through this focal point over here, so I'll draw it like this. Actually, when it comes to, it's actually going to go parallel. And so if we trace all these back, it kind of looks like, it's hard to see here, but this looks like where they're all intersecting is right here. It's definitely a virtual image, which we expect because it's a diverging lens. It's upright and it's reduced. And let's the real picture. We see something pretty similar, so yay me. I did pretty good without rulers. We see our 3 light rays. And again, notice the difference between doing these diagrams for converging and diverging optical instruments. The diverging ones are a little bit harder because you have to sort of trace back the light rays, and it's always where they appear to be coming from, etc. So they're just a little bit harder to master. But hopefully you find this kind of interesting and a nice little handy tool that you can use to sort of predict where images might pop up.